There is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension that is vast as space and timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition.
Asset. In our case is XRP, which is our native digital asset. Is that rather than sending money in advance, the moment that you need this money, you go and on demand request for this liquidity. So basically you use the digital asset, and in this case XRP, as a bridge currency between two fiat currencies. So you're not changing the board. You're not replacing currencies today. This world will continue for a few years. The disruption will happen progressively. I can give you a case. So for instance, you are a payment service provider. You want to send $100 to Mexico. So you go to the crypto exchange, you have your $100, you convert that to XRP, and immediately after, you convert back to the Mexican peso, and then you onward deliver to the local markets. This is changing completely the way that the banking today is happening.
This slide is going to shock you, but it's actually kind of real. This is something that our blockchain lab, nice to see you folks, built over the last 2 years. A tokenized system to move money from, on the right, bank number 2, through a cash tokenizing system that relies on a set of smart contracts that can perform the exchange of one currency to another currency in order to effect delivery of an international payment in about 30 seconds from one country to another. That's many, many times faster than what it's done today.
Another one that it got some attention, but I particularly am very excited about, is we added the Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority, the Central Bank of Saudi Arabia, as a customer of Ripple's. And they joined Bank of England as a customer, as a central bank engaging with us. And that also has really great secondary and tertiary impacts in working with the ecosystem throughout the Middle East. And so
it's more than a stamp of approval. They've got the connections on the rails there in the Middle East.
Right, and they see that we're moving from an analog to digital nature in terms of cross-border payment flows, and they obviously leaned in and joined with it.
On my command!
Again, to tell you a story, 3 years ago, we actually experimented with 12 banks across different geographies who did not have pre-funding relationship with each other. We gave them a bunch of digital asset called XRP and asked them to use it to see if it works for cross-border payments as a bridge currency. They came back to us after 6 months and they said, look, it works beautifully, but we cannot use this. And there are two issues with this. Number one, it's highly volatile, so we cannot use it. Number two, my regulator will never allow me to use this. There is no risk weighting to this, and it's too volatile. There is no way the central banks will allow me to use this. This was in 2015-16. So what we did was, and this is 3-4 years ago, before the whole concept of stable coins came into being. So we went back to the drawing board and came out with a new product, as I mentioned, ODL, on-demand liquidity. And basically what that product does is, through that product, banks do not have to hold a digital asset on their books.
Incoming fighters on your 6.
Can you get me to the target, Lieutenant Whitmore?
Yes, sir. Follow me.
Ultimately, we are looking at it as we want to move money in the same fashion as information moves on internet. So why can't money move in the same way? And that's what we mean by internet of value as against just information. How can you transfer value in the same way the information transfers? And if we achieve that, there are a number of use cases. And it's not just payments, it's lending, capital markets, securities, trade finance. All of these places, the core is it requires movement of value, be it money, be it an underlying credit that you're passing through or some other instrument. So that's what we think, and that's the vision, as I said. I think again, it's a grand vision. It's not easy to achieve, but all we can do is take steps towards it. And at some day there's going to be enough critical mass to have this happen, because internet itself did not happen in one day. It took time.
Lieutenant Whitmore, clear the blast zone.
The first question is really, whatever you have, whatever digital asset you have, is it a security? And there is a 4-part test that the SEC uses to determine it. I'm not going to go into it now. It's called the Howey test. But essentially, the difference boils down to effectively, are you investing in something that is sort of an asset, a store of value in and of itself? Or are you investing in something whose value is based on the efforts of others?
You did it, R2! Okay, let's go left. Go back? Qui-Gon told me to stay in this cockpit, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
The entire transaction happens in less than 30 seconds because of the speed of the ledger. The volatility risk is taken care of. So we removed the two big concerns that banks and payment providers had and almost productized it in a way, and then we launched the product last year in October.
Lightspeed.
Almost in range.
Hit the target dead center, as many runs as we can get.
Approaching target.
Moving to a different issue, this year Facebook announced its plan to develop a new cryptocurrency called Libra. While the SEC is one of a number of regulators who would have jurisdiction over Libra, can you speak to how the Libra announcement has affected how the SEC and other regulators are working to be responsive to and innovative to market developments and trends like cryptocurrencies?
Sure. And I appreciate the question, and the question highlights what happened with that announcement. And whether it's, I'm not going to speak about the particular product, it's not appropriate for me to do so, but the announcement was a focal point for regulators of different types to recognize that digitization and the digitization of the plumbing and other aspects of our financial system, including payment transfers, etc., it is coming. The what I'll say, just the natural economic forces that it unleashes, taking fat out of the system, for lack of a better term, it's happening. Now we have to recognize that that's happening, recognize our mission, safety and soundness, investor protection, fair markets, and ensure that as that digitization takes place, we're being true to those principles. But we should not be fighting that digitization, because if we fight it, it will go around us.
Well, thank you. That mirrors my feelings on it. And I assume that when you say it is coming...
I'm sorry, Senator, it's here.
This year.
It's here. It is here already.
Yeah, I see. It's here. Yeah, it is here. Yeah, it is here.
Bombing run. Remember, when the sun is gone, that weapon will be ready to fire. But as long as there's light, we got a chance. Guys, we got a lot of company!
Is this notion of building an internet for value exchange, and that's really the mission that we're trying to accomplish. What does that mean for financial institutions? Well, it means that banks remain the custodians, but they can also correspond with each other directly, and they can use this real-time settlement system without putting up capital on both sides, and with getting maximum competition for that exchange of value. It's a fundamental structural change in correspondent banking. The networks, whether that be SWIFT or Visa or Earthport, they can also use those same benefits for their customers. And then for regulators, we actually think this is also a big step forward, because you get so much more transparency. It's so much easier to track sort of degrees of separation tools in real time. We think it actually shortens the time it takes to catch the bad guys.
So I think this presentation is a great way to top off the last couple days here, because we've seen a lot of examples of blockchain in action in a variety of presentations here. And now we kind of roll up to the macro level, the aggregate. And the objective of this annual survey, and this is the second annual survey, is to gauge, track the pace of adoption and look at the different stages of adoption, from nothing to conversations to pilots to near implementation to production. And we're very excited to share our findings if you haven't already taken a preview here.
Okay, so let's take a look at the demographics then. Why don't you take us through that, Ellen?
So to assure we had an a representative sample. Our goal was to get a good representation of the addressable market for blockchain and payments. And you see this addressable market on the slide here, with the majority of respondents being in Asia, about 41%. We also wanted to make sure we had senior level people who were familiar with new payment initiatives. So we surveyed senior people at companies that offered some type of payment related service.
Okay, so comprehensive list of people spoken to all around the world. So what were the key findings, the sort of headlines that you...
I think the headline was that we're crossing the chasm of adoption. So you may have heard of the concept of the chasm. You have a bell curve representing adoption, and you have innovators on the far left, then you have early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. And the toughest point of any new technology is going from the early adopter to the early majority.
Red 7, standing by. Red 3, standing by. Red 6, standing by. Red 9, standing by. Red 2, standing by. Red 11, standing by. Red 5, standing by. Lock gas boils and attack.
What does centralization really mean? I mean, if we're talking about the most decentralized cryptocurrency, the most censorship resistant, the best in every way, we're talking about Ripple and XRP, right? I mean, and I'm an unbiased, and I'm not a special pleader. I'm not a special pleader for Ripple or XRP, but and we do have a slight conflict of interest there. But okay, so the real, so look, I mean, XRP is awesome. I mean, it just really is fantastic, and I just can't go on enough about it. Who's with me on XRP though? I mean, seriously. Yeah. Everybody hates XRP.
No, that's crazy.
If you have a look at a company like MoneyGram and their balance sheet, or even bigger ones, you know, a big piece of the balance sheet is debt, because they actually have to spend twice if they're going to service payments. They have to spend on liquidity in dollars, and then they need to spend on liquidity in all these foreign currencies, and they essentially wait for the customers to pay them back. So if I'm you know, Western Union, I get up in the morning and I might say, hey, I'm gonna service about $10 million US worth of Mexican peso payments today. And so I buy $10 million worth with debt. And that is really expensive.
Between the bitcoins, the stable coins, and the digital currency. And on the latter point, the digital currency, we have set up a task force, and we will accelerate the effort of this task force, drawing on the resources of the entire Euro system.
This is Admiral Radish of the Rebel Alliance. All squadron leaders reporting.
Admiral, this is Blue Leader standing by.
This is Gold Leader standing by.
This is Red Leader standing by.
Keep trying. Engage those Star Destroyers and let's start probing that shield.
Yes, sir.
We're going in.
Stay with me!
The national central banks that already participate in that research, that have already committed to the project in terms of experimentation, pilots here and there. So harnessing on all those experiments that have taken place and all the research that has already put into this effort, together with the work that has been done here also, we will, I think we're trying to do that by mid-2020.
All ships, prepare for jump to hyperspace.